now. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of October 12th, 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, members of Council are participating remotely, and this meeting is being held electronically, pursuant to the Council's electronic participation policy. Public access to the meeting is available on the Local Government Access Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers, and on the city's YouTube channel online. Public access is also available by utilizing Is everyone there? Sorry. You all disappeared. I don't know where you went.
Hi, Meredith.
Hi.
We're here. See you and hear you.
We did not hear, I don't think, the last part of the announcement, though.
Nope. I'm just going to keep going. If you are on the phone line waiting to speak to Council and are also watching the meeting on YouTube or Channel 8, please know there are a couple of seconds of delay with the live stream, or more, who knows. Please turn down your computer or TV volume as we approach the sections of the agenda reserved for public invited to be heard, so you can hear the Council meeting on the phone line and to prevent background noise when you're unmuted to speak. Those calling in and wishing to speak to Council may text 303-450-8757 to sign up to provide public comment. Please know that you must connect to the City Council meeting by calling the separate call-in number listed on the agenda. If you prefer to not text your name to the clerk, please speak up and indicate your desire to provide public comment when prompted at the appropriate time. Once you have been recognized, state your name and address and provide your comments to the Council. Thank you for following these directions and for maintaining meeting decorum tonight. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Here.
Councilmember Whitkovich?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson?
Here.
Councilmember Downing?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Goff?
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Malika?
Here.
Councilmember Escobar?
Here.
Thank you. So I'm going to, now I'm not the host anymore, Bob. I typically would share an American flag, but if you want to just stand, let's see if I can, nope. And we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, Bob, in order to share the video, unless you're going to do it, I'm fine if you will. I don't have sharing anymore. So we'll just move forward. City Manager, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor Leidy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? I don't see any. Thanks so much. So we have 3 proclamations tonight, and we have a special guest with us. So Bob, what do you want to do about the screen sharing? Do you just want to show the video for us?
Very happy that you're with us. And I'm assuming that you will get a copy of this. Bob, I would typically screen share on these. If you want to, you certainly can. I'm just going to read it to you now. Whereas on August 10th, 2020, North Metro Fire Rescue District firefighter Matt Chan competed in the Titan Games Championship and won the title of Titan Games Champion. And whereas Matt overcame detrimental injuries in 2014 and worked hard to rehabilitate himself in order to compete at the top level of physically challenging competitions across the nation. And whereas Matt uses his experience to teach fellow firefighters and the public about the importance of health and fitness in order to build a stronger community. And whereas Matt uses his strength and skills to serve residents of Northglenn as a firefighter. And whereas Matt showed incredible physical and mental strength to win against professional athletes and regional champions in the Titan Games to earn the extraordinary achievement of Titan Games champion. And whereas the Northglenn City Council wishes to recognize and celebrate Matt's positive mindset, which has helped him conquer a devastating injury, Mount Olympus, and everyday obstacles as a firefighter in our community. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 12th, 2020 as Matt Chan Day in the City of Northglenn and congratulate Matt on this extraordinary accomplishment. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 12th day of October, 2020. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all that are giving me this day. It's an incredible honor, and I want you guys to know that it's an honor and a privilege to serve the city of Northglenn. I pretty much have worked in Northglenn primarily since I started with North Metro Fire in 2007, and it definitely holds a special place in my heart. So thank you very much.
Nice, thank you, and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Can I ask Matt a quick question?
Yes, of course.
Matt, what does your training routine look like? Do you go to a gym locally here in the city or in the Thornton area, or do you just rely on everything you do at work?
Oh no, I definitely I work out 5 days a week. Do a lot of stuff outside, but I go to a CrossFit gym in the Rhino area of Denver called CrossFit Verve.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was this your first competition experience, or have you been doing this for a while?
I did another series of competitions, and I've done some mountain bike racing and stuff like that. But this is the first on this scale for sure.
That's really exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, our next proclamation is National Adopt a Sheltered Dog Month. And I believe this one was brought forward by Councilmember Witkovich. So thank you for that. And I will read that now. Whereas in October 1981, the American Humane Association founded Adopt a Dog Month in response to the growing number of dogs and puppies entering shelters every year. And whereas, according to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, an estimated 3.3 million dogs enter animal shelters nationwide each year. Of those, approximately 1.6 million shelter dogs are adopted, and 670,000 dogs are euthanized annually. And whereas every year, shelters and animal welfare organizations from across the country observe October as an important month for increasing their efforts to match lovable dogs with loving owners. And whereas this October, we celebrate our rescued canine counterparts and encourage our friends to open their hearts and homes to a dog in need. Adopting a dog from an animal shelter saves a life, breaks the cycle of pet overpopulation, and provides the many benefits that come from having a four-legged family member. And whereas among the factors that impact how long a dog stays sheltered is the preference for puppies, small dogs, long-coated dogs, and specific breeds. The reality is that all dogs, regardless of size, age, or breed, are individuals with their own unique personalities, needs, and ideal homes. And whereas adopting a furry family member is not the only way to be involved this October, foster caregivers also play an important part by providing dogs lots of love and time to experience living in a home and by making connections for potential adoptions during the journey to find a forever home. And whereas Northglenn is committed to the well-being of all members of our community, through the Adams County Animal Shelter, its animal welfare partners, and the many residents who adopt and foster animals each year. The lives of countless companion animals and their human counterparts are greatly improved. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Adopt a Shelter Dog Month in the City of Northglenn, and encourage all residents to consider welcoming a furry friend into their homes and families. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 12th day of October 2020. So thank you very much. Councilmember Witkovich, did you want to add anything or say a few words?
Sure. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this proclamation. It's really important to me and my family. We have our very own shelter dog, and I'm going to try to show a picture. This is Bailey, and she was adopted from the Dumb Friends League on a Sunday, and she was scheduled to be put down on the next Wednesday. So it's very important that you look at shelter dogs when you're trying to add a new family member. I'm pretty sure the Adams County Animal Rescue just recently moved into a brand new facility. So look into that, and there's definitely lots of dogs that need to be adopted. And one other thing I wanted to say, I don't recall what it was, but this one is very important to me. And I know lots of dogs have been adopted during the pandemic, but there are still lots that still need homes and foster homes. So thank you for this, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing it forward. And our third proclamation tonight is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have some members of the Victim Services Advocate team that will accept our proclamation. So I will read that first. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels. And whereas domestic violence is widespread, in the United States, an average of 20 people experience intimate partner physical violence every minute, which equates to more than 10 million abuse victims annually. And whereas 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence, and whereas, despite tremendous progress, an average of 3 women in America die as a result of domestic violence each day. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. And whereas children that grow up in violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average. And whereas families are indispensable to a stable society, and they should be a place of support to instill responsibility and values in the next generation. And whereas domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. And whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this heinous crime. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for residents to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Northglenn and urge the residents of Northglenn to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 12th day of October 2020. We have, I believe, Vida Herrera. Let's see, Vida, are you with us? Oh,
hi,
hello.
Mayor.
Is that how you pronounce your name?
It's Vida, but that's okay.
Vida. Thanks
so
sorry
for having us.
Thank you. Do you want to introduce your team and say a few words?
I do. That would be great. Thank you. Let me see if I can catch everybody. On the call, we have Marlo Dillinger. She's one of our victim advocates. There she is. Jennifer Holt. Hi, Jen. Andrea Buitrago. She is one of our bilingual advocates and currently is stationed 100% at the Northglenn Police Department. Brittany Ornelas Padilla. She's our sexual assault victim advocate. She works with all of our victims who have experienced sexual assault. And Yasmin Reyes Enriquez, she is also a bilingual advocate with our unit. So one of the great things that we're doing at Northglenn Police Department right now is really trying to provide our citizens enough or some information, I should say, in regard to domestic violence awareness. We're working with our PIO to get some information out to the public. If you've driven by the police department, our LED light is lit up purple in awareness for domestic violence. As purple is the color for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We also have partnered with a shelter and a display within the lobby of the police department. And we're also doing training for our officers and our detectives and really encouraging and continuing to grow our victim-centered approach into not only domestic violence, but all of our crimes against victims of domestic violence. So we really appreciate City Council and your support in our mission to bring more awareness to domestic violence during the month of October.
Thank you. Does anyone else on the team want to say anything or add to what she shared? Chief May?
Yeah, Mayor, do you mind if I say a few words?
Oh, please.
Actually, I want to just sing the praises of my, I'm going to claim them, my victim advocate group. They're absolutely amazing. They're out there in our community, and since COVID, they've been pulling double duty, not only managing the cases, but also responding out there. They're putting in countless hours and everything else. And these incredible women do such a service to our community. I just want to say it's because of them that actually can guide victims of domestic violence, out of that cycle of violence. So again, I just want to say thank you to a great team, and it's a pleasure having them at the City of Northglenn. So I just wanted to, sing their praises.
Thank you, Chief.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your night. We have more guests on the phone, so we're going to move into our presentations. We have a COVID-19 update tonight. We're going to start with Ray Gonzalez. He is the Adams County Manager. And take it away, Ray. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of Northglenn City Council. It's an honor to serve as your county manager. Let's see, City Manager Heather Geyer asked me to join you all tonight to kind of give you an update. I am aware that Dr. Douglas from Tri-County Health will be following my presentation shortly, but I will tell you that, as we continue to fight this pandemic, last week I received a call from the governor's office and CDPHE, and we had a consultation, which means that due to the increase in transmission rates, we have been placed in level 3 territory. We have not officially moved into level 3, but we have been placed in level 3 territory. And just to remind everyone, as we continue to look at our rates, our current incident rate today is 305. Which is significantly higher. And in order to stay at level 2, we need to be at 175 per 100,000 people. And the closer we get to 350 per 100,000 people, we will move into, they don't even call it a level 4, it's a severe case, which is stay at home order. And so we're trying our best, and Dr. Douglas just joined us to really prevent that from happening. And so as part of our efforts in Adams County is to work in partnership and collaboration with Tri-County Health to submit a mitigation plan. And the name of that plan really is Pledge to Protect. And that's exactly what the plan really explains, is that we have found that, and Dr. Douglas is going to go into the data that's really driving this, but after review of all the data, we're seeing spikes in small private gatherings, less than 10 people, and large private gatherings, more than 10 people, really are the two main reasons or causes that are increasing those transmission rates. And so with that, one of the first strategies in our mitigation plan really is to really pull together a communication campaign around educating our residents what that dial system truly means so that they understand and educate them at a level where they could walk away and really understand that it's really up to every single one of us in the community to do our part in terms of wearing a mask, in terms of staying 6 feet away from each other in and outdoors. If we experience symptoms, get tested. If we've been exposed by someone that had COVID, get tested, and commit to trying to stay away from those small gatherings. We are not protected. Most people will say, oh, because you're part of my family, I could have you over for dinner. I'm sorry, COVID does not, we have to take it to that level and really encourage our own family members to continue to not gather at family Sunday dinners. That's hard for those of us who look forward to those dinners every Sunday and have not had them for 6 months during this pandemic. We need to constantly remind ourselves that we have to play that significant role. We have increased our testing in Adams County. Our Waterworld site today performed 1,650 tests today. And we had to close our doors early yesterday because of the high winds. It destroyed almost half of our tents yesterday. And so we had a team out there all night working around the clock to make sure that we were open and ready to serve those residents who needed a test. And as a result, we were able to at least test 1,600. We also have partnerships with the City of Aurora, Brighton, Northglenn, Westminster, and Commerce City to provide rapid testing to our residents as well. And those sites will continue to be really instrumental in helping us serve. While all of them won't turn anyone away, we are trying to focus on those that may be homeless or even uninsured, but we will not turn anyone away that comes and needs a test. Some of the other strategies, innovative strategies that we're thinking of partnering with CDPHE, Tri-County Health, and Waterworld with Mako testing really is the ability, and I think you all have already started this, you were trendsetters and leading this, but we have the ability now and the technology to go in and actually perform testing in wastewater, either treatment facilities or even before it gets to the wastewater treatment facilities. We could pinpoint a certain location in the wastewater system and designate a subdivision if we needed to really bring testing to that area. And our ultimate goal is to partner with every single local fire department or district to help us provide rapid response testing to those communities that may not be able to drive to Waterworld. There's this fear of testing that it could lead to losing your job if you get tested and you have to quarantine for 14 days. That's the reality. We have surveyed so many of our residents that are in the service industry. They said, if we test positive, we don't get paid because we're hourly. And so what we're looking at is establishing a low wage fund to help those workers who do get tested and are not receiving a paycheck because they are self-quarantine. And so that fund will be available countywide through our Adams County CARES Act funding. Some other things that we're looking at is, at the end of the day, I think it's important to know that when we're trying to keep our businesses open, and so at a minimum, when you look at factors that are driving these rates up, some of the business communities say we're following those public health orders. We're trying to make a safe and clean environment for the customers that come in and eat at our restaurants. And so when you look at the data, we have some hotspot areas. And so one of the cool things that we're doing, I'm surprised that the state has not done this, but we will be the first in Colorado to establish a app that will be available on Android and iPhones that will really provide hotspot areas for those residents that are looking for this data. We are receiving tons of citizen complaints saying, why don't you publish this? Well, we do. We have them on websites. CDPHE has it on website, but our residents are not going to these websites for that data. So we're elevating that, making this information available on an app where residents could see firsthand what businesses are hotspots so that they could make a decision whether or not they continue to go to that business, local business. Another key thing is we're trying to pledge to protect your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your local business community. And so we're asking every resident to pledge and sign on this app by making a pledge that they are committed to this. And so I'm quickly going through this plan. Dr. Douglas, please chime in and help me get through this plan. If I missed anything, let me just go through it. Some other things that we're using, we do have some technology for real-time community impressions and behavior data that we're using. And so we will be analyzing as we push this communication out. We have a partnership with Zen City, which allows them to monitor over 200 different social media aspects. What is the community saying about these types of events, about testing, about COVID requirements, so that we could firsthand take that information and modify if we need to. It's a pretty cool tool that we're using. We've partnered with our local school districts to keep in-person learning. This was critical. We met with all 8 superintendents last Friday. And one of the key things is that, it's important that they have all pledged to follow all necessary public health orders and protocols and implement additional safety measures to ensure the safety of students during in-person learning periods. And so we will continue to work with them on a regular basis in terms of reporting positive cases and so forth. Also part of their communication plan. Superintendent Chris Gadowski, for example, after our meeting on Friday at 10 a.m., he immediately produced a short video clip really emphasizing the importance of masking. And so that is part of the communication effort that we're trying to make. So all superintendents are now going to do a similar message on their video. It's going to take us all working together to communicate this critical need to shift and try to reverse the rates. As part of our ongoing efforts with our business support and trade association efforts, I think it's important for us to really keep those businesses retained and open during COVID. And so we will launch a specific mini grant to help those businesses who are a hotspot area, so that mini grant could help remediate some of those issues that are causing these outbreaks. And so they won't automatically get it, but they will be flagged as a priority business that needs to be considered. We are going to do targeted communications for Latinx and Hispanic businesses and workforce. It is extremely important that we convey this message as well. I just produced last week a public service announcement in Spanish, and so we will be unveiling that as well. Notification from individual municipalities and the county. The city of Westminster and Federal Heights really use this when they receive a complaint from Tri-County Health Department. They send an additional letter to that business emphasizing the importance of following public health orders. And that letter is all that letter does, is really emphasize how important it is from the city to acknowledge that they need to follow those orders. Let's see. Going through, there's quite a bit in the plan. We sent this plan to all the city managers. They've all commented. Heather and her entire team, I want to thank you and the city of Northglenn for really providing some great feedback to the plan. We've already made some adjustments based on your feedback, and we have some answers to the questions that you raised as part of this plan. I will stop there. And Dr. Douglas, you reviewed the plan. I meant, without me going into the specific details of everything, do you want to add anything else?
I think I'd say a couple of things, Ray. First of all, first thing I'd say is what a fast and fantastic job your team did in pulling this plan together.
Thank you.
I think there's an array of, I think, really innovative ideas in here. Number one. Number two is we do not have much time.
Yeah.
Everybody said the numbers are going up. I just want to be sure everybody's kind of technically familiar with the time frame. The dates dial process has been a little confusing and a learning curve. I think we're down on the learning curve, but we're still learning new tips. Basically, the state left or passed the 2-week rolling case incidents on September 28th. That entered the state into what's called a grace period. There's a 2-week grace period of be thinking about what you can do because we really want to work with you to turn this around. Tri-County began planning some communication work with Adams County at that point. That grace period again ends today. Today is the official start of the mitigation period, which is what prompted the production of the plan, which will be submitted, I guess, tomorrow, Ray?
Yes, tomorrow.
And that's another 2-week period. That 2 weeks takes us through the 26th. So that's Monday the 26th. Technically, if the county is not within compliance with the current level, which is, again, level 2, which peaks out at 175, and Ray's already told you we're around 300, so we're way above that right now. The county would be required to cut back on capacity in a number of different community entities, businesses, restaurant capacity, gyms, personal services, church services, gatherings of all kinds. This is not where Tri-County steps in with a public health order. This is the state's public health order. I would say that the state indicated a lot of willingness to try to work with each county as long as progress is being made. And so if the county is not back below that level, and again, we are moving in the opposite direction, I think if we begin to turn things around with the kind of ideas that Ray has outlined here, we would, I think, be given some additional time by the state to try to get that down. But we understand that after the 26th, if things just really aren't turning around, there would be a week of announced transition. That in a week after that, that would be Monday, November 2nd. That's, of course, the day before Election Day, which is a complicated week. The capacity would be officially reduced. So that's the time frame. I think Adams County has outlined a number of things. One thing that we've been chewing on with Ray, and I'm not saying this because we've got any particular plans about this, is our neighbor to the northwest, Boulder, who had a much clearer smoking gun in terms of what was driving up Boulder's rates, i.e. the university, student gatherings, fraternities, et cetera, had some very targeted and fairly severe interventions to reduce gatherings in the university community. It worked incredibly well, potentially even too well. Some of the counties in our area are actually wondering if there could be any, as one of our counties put it, Boulder diaspora, that folks left Boulder, some with incubating infections, some with known infection, and may have gone to other counties, gone home to Adams County, Arapahoe, Denver, et cetera, and brought infection back with them. We do not have a particular smoking gun in Adams County, apart from, as Ray mentioned, the social gatherings. We have been fairly regularly modifying our case interview form, because I wasn't honestly satisfied 3 or 4 weeks ago that we were collecting sufficient community exposure information. We've now got better information, and that's what points to the social gatherings. But that's a much more difficult thing to, if you will, directly control than a fraternity party would be. And I think that's where this whole large-scale community awareness issue comes in. I will say that we're looking, in fact, I don't know, can I share a screen, Heather? I didn't ask you this before. And if
That's
if I can't, don't worry, I'll just talk.
Bob, can you help with that piece?
Yeah, I can see it. I just didn't know if I had disabled.
Like that. No, you should be able to click share and share your screen, Dr. Douglas.
It says I'm disabled.
Oh, it says you're disabled. Do you want to quick email me what you want to share? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Heather. I just whipped this up. It's 30 minutes. Perfect. All right, can you guys see that? Okay, so this is data that actually, I think in 2 days, we're going to get real time on our website. This is continuous data. In the corner, it says last update a few seconds ago. So when I clipped this out about 2 hours ago for Adams County, we started the new format of our questionnaire on September 29th. And so this is taking us through the 12th. I will acknowledge this. We don't have data on everybody. Some of the interviews that have happened in this time frame are still incomplete. Some people we can't find. We just don't have good locating information. Frankly, some people don't want to talk to us. One of our messages is the importance of trying to cooperate with public health authorities. And frankly, I'm so pleased that Ray has identified this idea of a fund to support folks in quarantine and isolation, because this has been an enormous issue about people not wanting to get tested, people not wanting to talk to public health, people not wanting to stay isolated during the time that they're sick, and then people not wanting to be quarantined. So we know this data is incomplete from a number of perspectives, but what it's telling us is the two big long orange lines are large private gatherings, sorry for the small font, and small private gatherings. And all that means is less than 10 or greater than 10. But I do want to point out a couple of other things that I think may give us some particular communication avenues. One is that, and this is, by the way, not saying, oh, we know this is where you caught it. This is saying during the time of your likely acquisition based on when you got sick, what public situations were you in? So we don't know whether or not a gathering was actually the right thing or not, but we do know it happened. The other things that have popped up are restaurants and cafes, offices and work settings, and church and religious gatherings. Now, none of these in any given case might be the responsible situation, but we think these are giving us clues not only to put out the kind of information that Ray talked about how to safely gather with your family members or your friends in private gatherings, but we're working on now how to message to our restaurant community about, restaurants are a vital part of our community. That's where many of our residents gather. That's great. We have heard this identified as a site of possible community exposure. We really are encouraging you to take every step possible, assure compliance with social distancing, disinfection, mask wearing. Same for our religious communities. And I'll tell you, Ray, we actually have a list of restaurants, and I'm not sure we've got as good a list of churches. And I can't really point the finger, nor do I want to point the finger at a particular place. But I do want to sort of see if we can begin to get the word out. As Ray said, I think a lot of our community doesn't really understand what this dial business is all about, that we're sort of all in this as a community. And if our rates across the community go up, and there's not an explanation like there was in Boulder, and we don't have a strategy to bring it down, and it doesn't come down, then all of our facilities, our businesses, our churches, other gathering places will see a reduction in their capacity. That's a long-winded addendum to what Ray said about his plan. I guess the only other thing I'd say about it is it's a fantastic to put this kind of plan together. Of course, we've really got to execute on it. And I'm sure Ray and his team, and certainly I, don't have a monopoly on good ideas. And to me, one of the ideas of sharing this is to get asked good questions about, gee, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? I mean, on the Adams County regional call the other day, I think it was the mayor pro tem of Westminster said, why don't you put paper signs up in stores? I mean, people are swamped by social media. They may not go to the website. Maybe they don't download the app. But if they're going into one of their local, facilities, maybe they'll actually see the sign on the door. So that's something, I mean, I have no idea if that'll be beneficial or not, but that's just a random thought. Oh, that's a really good random thought. Let's explore that sort of thing. So I applaud the county, and I really applaud Ray for getting input as broadly as he did so quickly. So I don't know whether a few more things, or we can ask Ray some more questions and put him on the spot.
No. Yeah, we can move towards Q&A. But I think the point that everyone needs to understand that Dr. Douglas just made is if we move to level 3, that'll substantially reduce the capacity for a lot of our local businesses, churches, and public institutions. And so I think it's important. It's going to take the entire community to step up so that we avoid having to go down that path. And so in terms of next steps, we will have another consultation with the state on Thursday. We submit our mitigation plan tomorrow. The state CDPHE will brief the governor, and then we'll have another consultation on Thursday with Tri-County Health and Adams County.
And Council, I would just add that Diana sent an email earlier today with an update on the communications, the direct mail postcard that's at the printer, if not printed already, with the mask up and move forward, Northglenn proud tagline. And so if you have any questions about communications, Diana is also here and can answer those.
Heather, are we going to piggyback on the pledge to protect piece as well?
Yes, that is built into the communication, I believe, or at least the practice safe 6 is how it's referred to. But we will do that in other communications. Diana, remind me if I'm reading this really quick. I don't think we use pledge to protect specifically.
We don't have it in a postcard because we didn't get that messaging until today. But we do have it built into the videos that are getting filmed right now. So in a nutshell, we have the direct mailer that's going with the Tri-County Health Department, Practice Safe 6. It's in English and Spanish. You guys have a copy in your email inbox. And that will also be put, not only a direct mail to every household, it'll also be in the goodie bags that we hand out for the Halloween run. Then for videos, we're doing 3 PSAs. They'll all incorporate the pledge to protect. So in other words, it's pledge to protect our local businesses. Practice the safe 6. So we're kind of using both taglines to try and get the messaging across. One of the videos is focused on business and what would happen if we rolled back. Another is actually a personal story that's very touching of someone who's dealing with COVID-19 in their family. And then we have just a general, hey, we had a spike in our community. We really need to do this. We know you've heard it. Let's rally. And then we'll put on those on all of our platforms and share them with our neighbors. We'll, of course, message to employees. We'll also, I met with all the PIOs today, including Adams County and our other municipalities around us. We all talked about what's going on. I'm not sure anybody else is quite rolling out stuff as quickly as we are, but everybody's on board with the 2 campaigns. So we'll have enough time together and we'll be sharing resources. So we have a lot going on that front as far as what we're doing. We'll do some paid social media to push that out to the direct mailer and stuff on our website, all that stuff. It'll probably be the lead story and the connection on the front page for November. So all that's summarized in your email, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to.
Does council have questions for Ray or Dr. Douglas or Diana? Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ray and Dr. Douglas for being here tonight. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, these are sobering numbers and a little, if not a lot, scary. And I appreciate everything that Diana just said about the communications and the things that we're doing. Question, suggestion, statement, I don't know. Is there a way to communicate what the two of you gentlemen just communicated with us, that we're rapidly approaching in on a 2-week closing window to drastically kind of reduce these numbers? And I love the outreach and I love the things that we're doing. And they're positive messages and they're public service reminders. And yet at the same time, I think this is an avalanche that I mean, I don't know, is there anything we can do at your level, Ray, Diana, at our level here to, I mean, that 2 weeks and then we have to close up. Is there a way of really, really trying to emphasize the fierce urgency of now on this right now? And it's not being alarmist and it's not being Chicken Little, it's being accurate with the state of things here in our city and our county. And let's just start with that.
To respond, our former communications director, Jim Seidlecki, who now serves as the deputy county manager, is working on a 30-second video that will basically accomplish what you just asked, is really communicate how we really have 2 weeks and we need everyone to step in. And it also educates the community in terms of the dial and what that means. And so we will share that with all of you, and we would ask that you push this out, play it on your channel 8, and send it out via social media aspects. And so we use infographics, so it's not someone speaking. It's really it's a very cool concept that we came up with.
Hey, Randall,
thank you. And then,
Randall,
sorry,
I just want to clarify one thing. Moving into level 3, which is where the county would end up, is actually not completely closing. It's a pretty big reduction, but it I'd completely shut down. However, stay at home
is closing.
That's
right.
Really closed down, and 350 is when one gets into that territory. So I would say that Ray's team really has been quite active. We put out a press release on Thursday, and I spent most of the day on Friday on various interviews with print and broadcast media. But, you know, we got to figure out a way to get that message drumbeated. And so our team is continuing to talk with the Ray's team and other PIOs about ideas about that. I wish I had a list of about 28 things that we're going to be doing in the next 3 days. I don't really have that over and above what we've done and what we're planning, the discussions that are happening right now.
And I'm not in marketing by any means, but, you know, and especially the costs right now might be totally prohibitive with the federal and state elections going on. But I mean, any chance for paid TV ads, any chance for community service ads on 9 or 7, since this is such an issue, just TV ads along with that. I'm not asking for an answer, but just, you know, throwing out things I'm sure you guys have already troubleshot to death. The question I do have, though, for you, Ray, before I let you go, is could you tell us a little bit more what we need to do as a city to communicate with your office for the availability of those grants for businesses and people in need? And then again, is that only triggered if we get to a stage 3?
No, actually, we have quite a bit of funding left in all of our mini grants. And so we actually have an outstanding relationship with the city of Northglenn. And so your economic development director, Debbie, is one of the most respected economic development professionals in the state. And so we will continue to communicate and make those mini grants available to all of your businesses that are eligible to receive those mini grants. And so I hope that answers your question. The first question you had is we are looking at paid ads via television and so forth. And so we're waiting on some estimates, but we do have some funding available to help us cover those costs.
All right. Thank you both very much.
Yeah.
Councilmember Mullica, and then Councilmember Brown.
All right, thank you. So one thing I was actually kind of hoping that you'd go over, Dr. Douglas, was the image you sent me just a little bit ago about the COVID by neighborhood. And if you look at that, West Northglenn leading the pack out of all of the community, out of all the county. So I mean, when we're talking about hotspots, we're it. So yeah. I think it's really important that we all realize that we are the hotspot.
Yeah. So this is data that our team has been tracking on. These are. I think this is more useful than this. This is a map, and red, it's only three colors. It's red, gray, and blue. Red as you've gone up 2 or more weekly average in the last month. Blue as you've decreased by the same amount, and gray as you're somewhere in between. I think this is potentially more useful. You guys know your neighborhoods better than I do. But West Northglenn, for example, right now, of the neighborhoods in our 3 counties has got the highest incidence rate. Now, remember those scary numbers. 175 takes you from level 2 to level 3. And 350 is the threshold for going into the stay-at-home total shutdown that Randall was talking about. So West Northglenn, which is, as far as I can tell, not a huge neighborhood. You guys know it better than I do. There aren't a huge number of cases there, but when you correct it for the population, these are staggering numbers. I don't know your neighborhoods that well, but Central Northglenn is the other one that was in the top listing here, and that's just about at the 350 level of stay at home. I sent this to Julie and Ray, just really raising the question of, you all know your community better than you do. I mean, in a small community, it doesn't take many cases for things to go up really high, and I want to be clear about that. But you know your community better than I do, and if there are things that strike you as the kind of things that are happening in this neighborhood or this neighborhood, and I don't know whether any of the ones listed on here are in your city, and I don't recognize the names, but that's part of why I shared it. It's this continuous brainstorming that I mentioned a few minutes ago, because smart people on the ground might pick up on ideas that we're just not clicking on or aware of.
And I have to tell you, Dr. Douglas, he has an amazing data scientist. His name is oh my god, now I just lost it. Adam, yeah. who was listening to our AdCog call last Wednesday when we called in an emergency AdCog meeting, and this was requested, and I can't remember who requested it, and that's how fast he turned this report around. And so I just want to give Dr. Douglas kudos for responding quickly.
So I have just kind of another comment that I want to throw onto the back of that is, so I really like Anita Seit's idea of posting signs, but is there a way that we could kind of take it a step further where we have like a mandatory sign that's posted outside of every single grocery store, or maybe at gas pumps, or places where people have to visit sometime in the next 2 weeks, right? We all have places that, we literally can't live without. So, can we post some type of communication at those areas? And then that way we just make sure everyone's getting the communication. I like the idea about the postcard, but one thing I'm really worried about, Diana, is it's election season. And I don't know about your mailbox, but mine is crazy with all the political mail that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how many people are actually going to look at it, if they'll look at it, or just assume it's just another vote no on something and throw it away. That's probably one of my biggest worries about mail. It's just because, we're at the height of the political campaigning season, and mail's going to be insane all the way up until the election. So I don't know. It's easy to get drowned out
on any of our communication platforms right now. There's a lot of noise. I think it's really hard. But I don't know what to tell you guys other than, we're going to hit their mailbox with a postcard. We're going to hit their mailbox right before the election with the connection. We're going to do paid social media and hit everybody who says they're from Northglenn. We're going to hit, and not just Facebook. We'll do it on Twitter. We'll do it on Instagram. We'll do it on Nextdoor. We'll put it in kids' Halloween bags. We'll do word of mouth through our employees. We'll do e-newsletters. Well, that's all the platforms we've got, man. And I mean, I guess and some of it is paid, especially direct mail and social media. We don't have the dollars to do advertising and wouldn't have the resources to put together a professional ad for TV at this point. But we will have 3 PSAs that, I mean, I could look into it, but the chances we could afford it on like 9 News would be pretty low. Definitely can afford it on social and web. So we'll push it out there, but it doesn't matter which platform we run into that challenge because of political season anywhere. Our biggest hope is repetition. That's why you put it on all the platforms and use the same slogans that everybody around us are going to use to try and get it through to people that practice Safe 6, your pledge to protect, whether if that's protect your family, protect your business, protect whatever. So that's what we're trying to do, and totally open to suggestions, but I'm not sure you guys have said anything that I'm like, yeah, we should do that too, other than signage. And I mean, we can ask people to do signage, but I'm not sure. My personal experience with signage is it's not as quite as effective as social media and a direct mailer is. But can we print up posters? Absolutely. We can take what's on the postcard and make it into a poster and distribute it out there. We can at least hit our biggest retailers if that's an extra step you want to take.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I go into King Soopers every single day, there's not every day, like often, no, too often. There's a sign out front that, well, it's old now and no one pays attention to it, but it's like masks are required or whatever. Like, just put a big sign right out in front of there. Maybe folks would at least see it a couple times. I don't know, but I mean, I just feel like at this point, it's we're getting a little desperate. To make sure
I do think we're desperate, and how much time do you want to invest for staff going out and putting up signs? Can we print them and get them to retailers? Absolutely. Kind of probably on them if they choose to put them up or not. You would think they would be willing, considering how bad it's going to threaten their business if anything rolls back. I can tell you it was not difficult for Debbie to find businesses to be willing to do, to be in a video saying, hey, we really need people to band together.
Yeah. Okay.
Joyce?
Those are all my questions. Oh, I did have one final question. How will schools be affected if we move up to level 3, if at all?
Yeah, so that's where I've started to mention schools as a challenge. Let me say a couple of things. First, in cases, schools are having quarantines. Schools are not, as far as we can tell, in any of our counties, including Adams at this point, contributing to transmission. That could change, but so far, classes, the disruption factors probably prevent that from happening. There are no requirements for schools under protect or the dial. What instead they have is suggestions. So when you go from level 2, the suggestion, Julie, is in person, hybrid, or remote. There seems to be some idea that the order of the words subtly dictates the preference. If you move to level 3, which is again where we're heading, then you reverse the order. Remote or hybrid suggested, limited in person as appropriate. And then when you move to stay at home, it's all still suggested. Remote suggested, very limited in person when necessary. Now I'm going to be talking to the 14 board tomorrow night, because they have not opened and are trying to figure out what to do about opening. And we, in addition to the kind of census tract and neighborhood maps that I just showed, we've been doing school district-based incidence rates so that the school officials can understand what's happening. Adams 14, Mapleton, and Westminster have got the highest school district rates in our counties. As Ray said, we met with the superintendents from all the districts. Part of it was around communication. Part of it was around, hey guys, what should we do? If we're open, should we stay open? If we're not open, APS is on the cusp as well. What should we do? We're trying to develop better methodologies of documenting or following, measuring intra-school transmission. We don't think we're seeing a lot of it, but we probably aren't measuring it completely. I'm going to be trying to work with the Adams 14 group tomorrow. They've got incredibly high rates. I think if they do anything they probably need to do it in a very staggered fashion with the most vulnerable and the least likely to transmit first. You know, P through 2, and then maybe 3 through 5, this kind of thing. But it doesn't have official ramifications, Julie, but the higher the community levels go, or no question we'll have more disruption and frankly more fear by adults in the schools, teachers and staff who worry about getting infected there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, I very much like my kids in school, and I hope it stays that way with everyone being safe. We're in Adams Falls. Okay, that's all for me, guys.
Councilmember Brown.
Sorry about that. It took me a while to get to the mute. As I'm sure Councilmember Mullica can attest to, I am like the COVID questionnaire person. I'm always calling Julie for help. I think you have a great platform here. And I think that we're forgetting that our residents probably don't know what 305 and 1.75 mean. So maybe if we break that down a little bit for the ones watching it on YouTube or on Channel 8 or, you know, later on in the week, I think that it's important to maybe let them know. And then I had one question else that maybe you could answer, and then for someone else. We're looking at the tests, right? We're looking at our test rates. Are we looking at the week prior? Are we looking at the day prior? How fast do we have those results where it affects our number?
So you're speaking of the test positivity, Becky?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So test positivity is an important part of the equation. It's not as vulnerable to the current transmission climate as the case incidence rate is. Like the case incidence rate, it's a 2-week rolling average. So when we post it every day, but the metric we really follow is what's happened over 2 weeks for cases, what's happened over 2 weeks for test positivity, and also what's happened over 2 weeks in terms of hospitalization. So those three matter, but the one that's killing us right now is numbers of cases.
Okay. And then, Diana, can we do anything with our faith-based leaders? For instance, you know, our Asian community, our Muslim community. Can we do something within their base to get the message out? Because I know we have Hispanic and I know that we have English, but we also have Vietnamese in our neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I thought, you know, maybe if we could hit up, you know, our faith leaders and see if they, I know they would all help us spread the message.
I think they will help us spread the message. And I think the email campaign, I think they'll all definitely help us spread the message. I'm not sure if we're not reaching the people that need to be reached or if it's people who are defying. I don't have a good answer for you. All I can tell you is we'll keep trying and definitely send that message and include our faith-based leaders, and all of our volunteers at the city and all that kind of stuff.
My fear is that people have gotten very, very tired of COVID, you know, and I don't want to start a panic, and I don't want, you know, and I think that once you keep getting things like this over and over and over and over again, like this is a very important time, but I hope that people pay attention to it. And that was a great point, Diana. Heather, can you please, do you know off the top of the head where what's considered West Northglenn, is that Ward 4, or is it broken up by wards? Where's Central Northglenn?
Councilmember Brown, great question. I can look more specifically at the map. I haven't had a chance to look at it today beyond Dr. Douglas sharing it tonight. Huron Street is the northernmost boundary on the north side of 112th, and then we've got that section. So I can work with staff and we can kind of draw over that neighborhood map, if that would be helpful to council and give you a better idea of what that west section looks like.
And I'm just going to make one more statement, then I'm going to shut up, okay? I don't understand, because we close things down, say we don't make our numbers, for lack of a better word, and we don't get it down. We close our businesses, or we roll back what's allowed in our businesses. Aren't they just going to go to the next city, to Jeffco or something like that, where they can still go out and eat, or they can still sit down and eat. And then doesn't that just cause the transmission to keep filtering into our different communities?
I don't think if it were eating out, most people are following the rules. It's gatherings. So, we must have a very social city where people like to get together with their families and have barbecues and give lots of hugs and kisses. So not a bad thing that we have a closed community, but unfortunately in this case, we need to remind people that even when they're having small family gatherings with their friends or their family, anybody outside their household, they still need to follow protocols, because according to Tri-County Health data, that's kind of what we're looking at. There's no smoking gun.
Okay.
Dr. Douglas, did you want to define what 175 per 100,000 people mean, and 300, what our current rate is today? Can you go into that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this is a number of cases adjusted for the population, and the way the state's doing it across the state, it's the most common denominator is adjusted for a population of 100,000. So if you have a population of 500,000, you're going to be able to measure things comparably to a place with a population of 50, for example. So what you do is take the number of cases per day divided by the population, adjusting it for 100,000, and you multiply that times the past 14 days. And that's where we get that 2-week cases per 100,000 per 2-week time period. So that's what's used for cases. That's what's used for test positivity and also for hospitalizations.
Thank you very much. I'm sure our residents, it's just a little bit of help for when they struggle.
Well, it's a statistical thing, Becky, and it's not going to compute for most people. I get that, even when I explain it to you, when we do all these adjustments. But I guess we're hoping if we say it often enough, people will at least. Oh, well, by the way, part of the focus of this dial thing is a fire fan color coded thing. So level 3 is orange. Level 2, where Adams County currently is yellow. Level 1, where the county would like to be, is green. And so I'm sure Diana knows this, is probably thinking about color communication as opposed to numeric communication. And that's visual, and it's easier for many people to understand.
So Mayor Pro Tem, I see you, but before that, I want to piggyback because I felt like Dr. Douglas wanted to answer Becky's earlier question, but Diana did. I wanted to clarify that question about restaurants or gyms or anything else. If we close it by county, that was a conversation that we had back in the spring when the governor ended up making a statewide decision. Is there any discussion around that? Because I'm looking, the state's numbers are higher than they were in April. So has the metric just changed? Are we just measuring it differently so we don't have to go to stay at home? Because could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So what happened was the numbers have changed. And there was a process that, for example, Mayor of Arvada, I'm blocking on Mark's last name, was part of, and Commissioner Odoricio was part of, and I was, and Casey Wolf is the governor's COVID advisor, took a set of guidelines and metrics from the White House and said, could these be more useful in Colorado, especially if we kind of explain ahead of time, what does it mean if you get to a certain level and then you get even higher and even higher? And the whole concept was community awareness, transparency, and ideally community solidarity. If my community was going to, experience a loss of capacity, if things got worse, then I might care enough about it to change my behavior. So this thing was developed in the summer. It is at the county level. It's measured at the county level. And what you and Becky have both observed is, people don't always follow county lines. You don't live in a bubble. And if your restaurants are closed or have lower capacity, yeah, you can drive to Broomfield or into Denver. And the other thing to note, and I'm going to be involved in explaining and even enforcing this order, but I will acknowledge that if one of our biggest problems right now is social gatherings and restaurants go down in capacity, then maybe people are going to do more social gathering with their friends because the restaurants are closed. So there are all kinds of perverse aspects of this, I will acknowledge. Another thing I will acknowledge is that some of you have pointed out to me, and your business communities have, I'm sure, pointed out to you, that while our cases are going up, our hospitalizations have not been going up as much, and there seems to be a disconnect, and there is a disconnect between number of cases. We've been working with the state to try to suggest a way of adjusting that index so it takes severity into account, but we don't have an answer for it yet. But there are lots of things about it that are somewhat counterintuitive of the kinds we just talked about. But that was the original intent, and I support the intent. Can we explain to all of ourselves what it means to be in a single county lifeboat? And that may be an artificial measurement of what our lifeboat looks like versus a city or a neighborhood. But that seemed to be the most plausible way to try to implement this across the state.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good to see you, Ray and Dr. Douglas. I have a series of questions, so I hope you'll bear with me. The first one's about Election Day and the potential deadline coming up to move into a level 3 being November 1st. Will there be any considerations made given that Tuesday will be Election Day, and oftentimes folks will, there are a number of folks that really love to vote in person, and that could lead to lines. Obviously, those need to be socially distanced, but are there any thoughts or any plans that are being developed to ensure that folks will still have the option to vote in person if they wish?
Yes, that is moving forward, is what I understand. And we would not move into level 3 until later in the month, is what I was told. Dr. Douglas, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I hope you're right about the clerk, because we got asked that question in our regional call by your clerk, right? And I didn't know the answer. Melissa's back and is looking into it. I hope, are you saying you believe there is some effort underway to clarify this? Because he didn't know and we didn't know.
There is. I meant, from what I understand, is that we will remain in level 2. The grace period ends at the end of the month, but there's still a series of consultation meetings that need to take place. And so those meetings are scheduled beyond the election. So that's giving me an indication that everything will be fine through the election. Do you know what I'm saying? So and we wouldn't officially go into level 3 until like the week after the election, if they don't see any improvement. CDPHE is willing to work with us. So if we do see an improvement in our rates, so if we could start getting them to flatten and then slowly decrease, then they're going to suggest that our plan is working. And so they would want us to continue implementing the plan to see if we could get to a level without having to shift to level 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Ray, I think we probably ought to clarify the dates. I had a slightly different understanding. And
I talked to Mara this morning and she gave me.
Oh, okay. Ray, we'll go with Ray then. That's good to hear.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. No, it's okay. It sounds like there's a lot of things that are moving really quickly.
The dates changed twice, so just.
No, thank you all for staying on top of it. I appreciate it. And then I'm also curious, will there be any guidance specifically regarding parks? I know that for a period of time earlier this spring that our parks were closed. And I know that Councilmember Mullica had brought up the idea of, canvassing the city with signs and trying to cut through the noise and meet people where they're going out to recreate, which I think is a really important idea. But I'm just, again, the question is is there any guidance on parks? Are we going to have to close down? Are we going to have to clean more regularly? Because that tends to be definitely a meeting space for people with young children.
I'll defer to Dr. Douglas.
Well, I was about to defer to Ray because he's. Jenny, I don't have any specific park guidance. It's a good question. I know parks did close down in the spring. They're not specifically outlined in the dial language, but I was thinking that one of the reasons not is that since the spring shutdowns, we've recognized that if you're not, too crammed together, being outdoors is in the well-ventilated spaces is actually a reduced risk, even though we still like to encourage mask wearing in that setting. But let me look into that, since Ray is not clear about it and I'm not either.
Okay, great. Thank you both for that. I have been doing a lot of walking around Croak Reservoir and Danahay Park, and have just been really struck by how many folks are not wearing masks when they're out in public recreating. And so I really appreciate that you all are thinking outside of the box in terms of how to cut through the noise of this time of year and reach people with where they are. Because I think one of the big problems that I'm really seeing, and I'm not entirely sure how we address, is just, to Councilmember Brown's point, there's a lot of COVID fatigue. And I'm worried that people are looking at the different COVID announcements about, wearing a mask or staying 6 feet away or not having public gatherings, and feeling like those announcements and those requests don't apply to them, right? Because they're doing all of the safe things. And so I think if there's any way to make these announcements more personal or human, I think that would be greatly appreciated, because I don't know that folks are necessarily seeing themselves in the requests and some of the messaging. So just a little bit of feedback, but I really do appreciate all that you guys are doing. And just want to re-up Councilmember Duran-Mullica's, note that signs would make a difference at our, at our businesses, at our playgrounds, across the city, just because they're different, and folks would notice them. I guess the last question I had, and I don't know that this is necessarily a question for you, Ray or Dr. Douglas, probably more for Heather, but how have we given our businesses in Northglenn a heads up that we're in this situation? Because the last thing I want is for folks to be blindsided and not have a moment to make a plan for what changes may need to be made to their business in the event that we do move into level 3 or 4.
Sure, that's a great question, Mayor Pro Tem. Debbie and Shannon are gonna be doing outreach. I was just looking at my email because last week, after we had gotten word about this situation, Debbie had said she was gonna put together one of the e-news blasts that she does via her e-newsletter to all of the business community. Jessica, our community resource navigator, is also available to connect and do those touch points with not only businesses. So it was suggested earlier as a best practice to send out letters, and we're going to have Jessica send out letters to businesses who are violating the local guidance. So we're going to go one step further and have her make connection with the businesses rather than trying the heavy-handed, we're going to revoke your business license, because honestly, that's a whole nother process that a community has to go through. So we're going to take a more proactive approach there. So we'll talk as a staff tomorrow and figure out how we can integrate signage into this. But Debbie and Shannon have consistently throughout our whole COVID response been in communication, whether it's through e-newsletter blasts, phone calls that Debbie, Shannon, Susan make proactively to check in and see how businesses are doing. And then certainly when businesses reach out to economic development staff, we're very responsive.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our guests, Councilmember Brown?
So my question is actually for a resident who has a question regarding the porta potties at the open space with all the track meets and this and that are going on over there. She is worried that is a cause of spread, that we may not be emptying them enough on the weekends, or we may not have enough. I had just texted Heather the same question. Is that a possible source? I mean, I heard you say that sporting, being outside reduces the risk, but what about our porta potties and things like that in the open spaces?
Yeah, I mean, porta potties, of course, are indoor sort of settings. And then secondly, environmental surfaces, while we've been talking about them less lately, we still think have a role to play. Certainly frequent touch surfaces, and you might imagine that the handle of a porta potty would certainly fit that description, not to mention the other apparatus inside the porta potty. So I do think that, honestly, we partly have to depend upon people using good personal hand hygiene. I mean, if this was a bathroom in Victoria Station in London where somebody's cleaning it after everybody goes to the bathroom, maybe you wouldn't have to rely on that, but that's not going to happen in an outdoor thing. So I do think it's an issue. It's probably not going to replace personal hand hygiene, though.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I'm pretty sure our county manager missed his next appointment.
Oh, I'm fine. You all are way more important.
No, I was just going to thank you for doing that because we appreciate that you always take good care of us in Northglenn.
Absolutely.
Thank you to Dr. Douglas for being here tonight. We appreciate you spending the time with us as well. We know you are very, very busy. And we will thank you and bid you good night.
Okay. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Appreciate all the. Take care.
Okay. We are moving into, sorry, I gotta scroll. Public invited to be heard. Joanna, do we have anyone that would like to share tonight?
I did not receive any emails prior to the meeting or voicemails. I don't see any public on the phone line, but we might just pause just in case and let them know that if they want to unmute themselves, they can push *6 and speak up.
Okay, I'm going to move into communications. We'll go backwards again tonight. We'll start with Ward 4. Councilmember Esquivel, how are you?
I am great. Thank you very much, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. Number one, I wanted to send out my personal kudos to Diane and her staff for the development of that mailing. I think, we talked about this a week ago. In a week's time, put something together, whether we all agree or don't agree. I personally think it looked very good, and I just wanted to throw some kudos towards Diane and her staff. Secondly, I know Veterans Day is coming up, and the Northglenn Senior Organization has always done an event on Veterans Day at the flagpole, at the memorial, spaghetti dinner, and or luncheon. And this year they feel like their hands are tied. So what they're going to do is they're going to sign up to salute. It's an in-person celebration. Since a in-person celebration cannot be held, they're not going to sit still. They're still going to do something to honor our veterans. So what they have in mind is to create a sign, much like the Northglenn Hugs, recognizing the veterans in the community and their branch of service, and probably maybe whatever other information they can collect. And that will be their contribution this year. So if you know of a senior, well, not a senior, if you know of a veteran, we would like to have them contact the Senior Center at seniorcenter@northglenn.org by November the 5th. Or they can call 303-450-8801. So this is open to all Northglenn residents who are veterans. Male, female, doesn't matter. Branch of service doesn't matter. Time of service doesn't matter. Their goal is to circulate or print and place at least 250 signs throughout the city of Northglenn. So if you need any more information, You can always contact me. My phone number is public, and my email is on the website, and I'll be glad to pass this information on. But this is, they talked about it last month. You know, they wanted to do something, and they just didn't want to sit on their laurels, and this is what they came up with. So they asked me to announce it tonight. I hope I did them a good service. It's kind of hard to read the small print and look into the camera at the same time. But we're all adjusting, and thank you so much.
I love that idea. So quick question for Diana. Diana, can we add this information to our social media pieces so we can really get the word out?
Computer doesn't want me to talk. Actually, we have already been promoting it. We've already had quite a few people reach out to us, and they did send it out through the Northglenn Senior Center and really give the Northglenn Senior Organization the first chance to put it out there because it's their project, and it will also be in the connection. So it's not going to be hard to get rid of 250 signs at all. I can tell you right now. So those will go quickly. They look really cool. They look really nice. The arts person over for the theater actually designed them, and they look great. So yeah, so no credit for my team on this one other than we're going to promote it. But I got to tell you, it's not going to be hard, and they already have quite a few requests.
That's awesome. I love that idea. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 3 announcements this evening. The first one is the woman who's been serving as the chair of the Croak Reservoir subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board also teaches at Regis University. She teaches in a graduate level introductory class on environmental regulation and impact assessment. And she has formatted this class to be very similar to the problem-based learning scenarios that we often judge at Northglenn High School. And this year she's asking her students to go through and take a look at some of the issues identified at Croak Reservoir by the subcommittee, and then make some suggestions for how the city might be able to move forward. And so she had asked me to make the announcement and just let you all know that if you're interested in being a part of the first meeting that this group of students is doing, primarily to just listen and learn more about Northglenn as well as Croak Reservoir, that you can let her know or let me know. It's scheduled for Wednesday, October 21st at 6 p.m. I believe that it'll be virtual just given the pandemic. And then if you're not able to attend that but want to tune in for some of the recommendations, her students will be making the final presentation on November 18th. So if you're interested in joining, please let me know and I'll be sure to connect you with Tamara. My second thing that I wanted to highlight is just to take a quick moment and say thank you to the 6 council members and the mayor that signed on to the Excel letter that I forwarded out. We had actually almost 90 mayors, council members, county commissioners, and school board members signed on. And as a reminder, this letter asked that Xcel in their next energy resource plan prioritize clean, renewable, and safe energy for customers by transitioning away from fossil fuels, which will ultimately save money, drive economic growth, protect public health, and address the climate crisis. So thanks again to you folks. That letter was shared with Xcel last week and will be sent to the Public Utilities Commission soon. And then the final announcement is that I will be providing public comment at the Public Utilities Commission tomorrow morning regarding policy issues embedded in the Clean Energy Plan and Electric Resource Plan process for Xcel as well as Tri-State on behalf of Colorado Communities for Climate Action. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Going backwards in my head. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, I just have a couple of things. In the last week or so, I did participate, or not participate, but sat and watched a presentation given by the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. It was called Homelessness 101. It was very informative, got some, good ideas about, it was primarily focused on Denver and the, somewhat the Denver metro area, but some good ideas for our task force. And then the Northglenn homelessness task force met last week as well. So I think Rupa and maybe a couple of other task force members participated in the presentation that I had seen. And so we got to share some of those ideas. And then also this last week, I got to tour the Rec Senior Center and Theater that's being built with some of our local officials, including our representative, Kyle Mullica. And it's just so exciting to see the progress that's being made. And I know our residents are anxious to be able to open that place up and get to, enjoy all of its amenities and the programs that we're going to be able to offer. So I'm just going to tell everybody to, like myself, we have to be patient, but it's going to be worth waiting for. And that's really all I have tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Malika.
Yeah, so I just have a quick update, I think. I think it was 2 Wednesdays ago, I sat on the initial call that a group of us pulled together, CDOT has pulled together to talk about 270. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this already to anybody, but there's a group starting to discuss about the 270 project, and we're in the very, very initial stages of what that would look like. But really, that corridor is vital to so many people who have to sit on it every day, unfortunately. And so work is going to be happening, and really it's just a lot of environmental studies that go first. And so one of my biggest concerns is how is it going to be feeding into I-25, and I'm concerned about the bottleneck that might be piling onto I-25 once 270 starts flowing nicely. So a little worried about that. On the second note, for the RTD Accountability Committee, we're starting to get a good list of just kind of objectives that we're trying to focus on. As a group, I sit on the governance committee, and so a lot of that is how are local leaders going to be interacting with RTD directors? How do we want that to be improved over time? And so there's a lot of great, interesting ideas about even possibly creating maybe like sub-regional councils, very similar to the TIP process that we went through recently, and just giving more locals, I guess, I don't know, not necessarily more say in what happens with RTD, but we just want to feel that are heard by RTD. I think it's the best way of putting it. So that committee is very dynamic, and we'll see how that continues over time. But other than that, that's it. I enjoyed some nice weather before Sunday, so I guess that's the best you could do.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Hello. Well, we had our youth commission meeting, and I'm always amazed by those kids. They're just so gung-ho. I kind of feel sorry for them because it seems like they're getting slammed really hard with their schoolwork at home and trying to be remote for those that are still doing it. So that was great. I also had Joe take me up to the National Night Out, which seemed to be very well received. There were quite a few residents there. Not as many as the beginning. At the beginning of it, I guess there was, more people there. But when we went up about 6 o'clock, there were still quite a few people. Interesting conversations with the neighbors, and I did wear a mask, and I did socially distance. And I just wanted to say welcome back to my bear over there by our bear, the statue. So many residents have noticed it, and it just made me so happy to see it the other day. And really, I think that's all I have right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Downing.
Thank you. Really, I don't have very much this evening. Did attend the Arts and Humanities Foundation board meeting, and they're still working towards more fundraising for the sculptures. So anyone that's interested, They would certainly appreciate any help with the fundraising. Also, they are starting to work on what has happened is we're getting an immense amount of graffiti in the tunnel where the mural was, due to the fact that we don't have a lot of traffic now because of the construction, that there's a lot of graffiti, and they're using some type of paint or substance that is very difficult to take off. And so, but they are working with an artist to try to get that cleared up and get it back looking the way it did before. That's really unfortunate that we're having that problem. And I think other than the Ducky Derby is coming up pretty soon, the senior organization contacted me as well as the Rotary. So please take a look at Ducky Derby. It's going to be coming up pretty soon. I believe it's virtual. And they're also having some type of the ducks they're having a contest to see which duck is the best through the Rotary. So you want to take a look at that through their website. But other than that, that's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitcridge.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing that I was going to mention was the honey bear. We're really excited to have it back over here. And I know folks are really excited talking about it on Facebook and on Nextdoor. So we're really happy. Thank you to Northglenn Arts for getting that back out there. Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Legislative Affairs Committee met tonight. And so just a couple brief little updates. Spoke with Ed and Jennifer with our lobbying team. And I think the main thing to report right now is, as we all know, that our ballots have been mailed out. And we've expressed, ballots are out. And so there's a lot that's yet to be determined as how far the legislative session is going to look. That's going to be based on the election in terms of who's on the JBC. Things are really more in the air than settled in so many things in terms of having citizens or lobbyists have access to the Capitol, even when the session is going to start. All this is still kind of to be determined and up in the air a little bit. We talked a little bit about those who are maybe facing some anxiety or nervousness about having their ballot being counted, is that we have this great system in Adams County where it can be tracked and you can follow this. Julie talked about this with her own relatives, and where this can be tracked and you can get a text in terms of making sure your ballot has been received and all those things. And so there really is a heavy look in terms of every stage of the ballot process here. So those that are maybe a little concerned can follow that. They need not be so concerned. So that was the main thing from the legislative team. There's a couple other things that we're working on. We have December 7th, we have our legislative dinner, and we're still we put together kind of a de facto little agenda on that and walk through that a little bit. And the committee will be in communication with Heather and Rupa on how that starts to take shape. Basically what we talked about, we thought it would be important for the city and Heather to maybe give just a little bit of a primer to our elected representatives at the State House. What we're doing, and not just with COVID, but what we're doing fiscally, what we're doing in terms of our infrastructure, what we're doing with our buildings, right, where we're at right now with Northglenn. And a few people indicated that that's a time for great communication, right? We can hear from our legislative representatives, but we can also then offer our question and answer sessions, as well as expressing some of our concerns and worries, one of which was, as we're looking at increasingly negative economic forecasts, one of the concerns is that those might be passed down to localities and municipalities with unfunded mandates. And so we talked about keeping this about an hour and looking at a schedule, whether this is a standalone session or it's part of another study session on December 7th. We know we've done this in the past socially, but we'll probably be doing this virtually at that point. And the last thing that we talked about was the legislative guide is all but completed, and that should be coming to the full council here soon enough for review and discussion. And that's it from Legislative Affairs.
Awesome, thank you. So I was joined by some council members, but I had the opportunity to welcome 2 new businesses to our city. So Local Choice Heating and Air Conditioning, we had the ribbon cutting last Friday. And then we also got to go to Dutch Brothers, and that was really fun. That crew is energized. They're probably very caffeinated as well. But it was just a really fun ribbon cutting. So we got to do both of those on Friday. And then I did take part with City Manager Geyer and Chief May and a lot of his team in the National Night Out sort of adapted version. And I cut out a little bit. I don't know if that's what Becky was sharing. It sounded like it, but I came in and I had no idea where you went with a mask on. So I think that's what it was. So that was really great. I also had my mask on. The food trucks are fun, but really it was an interesting group of people, very socially distanced, families stayed apart, and everyone was just in a really good mood. It was a beautiful night and it was great, but we also had the opportunity to thank and celebrate a couple of our officers that I know we will be acknowledging soon, that did some heroic things and saved people from a fire just the day before. So those same officers were out and about greeting residents the very next day. So it was very nice to thank them for that work. And I think that is all I have. I think just the voting, my ballot did arrive today, so that's very exciting, making sure that we get those filled out and turned in. That is all I have for tonight. City Manager Geyer.
Thank you, Mayor Lighty. Members of council held a full afternoon of HR director interviews, virtual interviews, and we made some great progress. So more to come on a date for when we'll get a community meet and greet scheduled virtually, of course, given where we're at with COVID-19. So I hope to have those dates and all the logistics figured out by the end of the week. So I'll send that information out to you as soon as I can. But exciting news on that front. And I've acknowledged Jason's work previously, but can't say enough about the awesome work he's done as acting human resources director on top of his full-time job as finance director. And in particular, this time of year is a super busy season with development of budget and all the different moving pieces, COVID-19. So just want to do another shout out to Jason for his work. And I know he's excited that we made the progress we made today.
I bet. Corey, how are you?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Doing well. Good evening, Council. The only thing I have to report is I'm actually in the middle of CML's virtual attorneys conference. Typically, they would have done it in one weekend in October. This year, they are doing it 4 successive Friday afternoons virtually. So we are halfway through and getting good information that'll help me with some of the things Northglenn is experiencing with things like campaign finance and sales tax simplification issues that we're in the middle of. That's it.
Thank you. Joanna, how about you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a very quick update on the election. As Mayor Lighty and Councilmember Peterson already mentioned, the ballots are out. And in addition, I'd like to direct folks to always utilize the adamsvotes.com website. If anybody is nervous about returning their ballot by mail, they have a lot of videos that are available on their website that talk about the life of a ballot. They also provide those videos with Spanish subtitles, which is fantastic. And then for folks who would prefer to hand deliver their ballot, wanted to let everybody know that we still have the 24-hour ballot drop-off box right outside of City Hall. It's in the southern parking lot right next to the utility drop-off box and the mailbox. It's very secure. The foundation is cemented It's under 24-hour video surveillance, so please take advantage of that drop-off site. And if anybody needs additional election information, we have a little self-service area set up inside City Hall, but right outside the city clerk's office, where individuals can come in and pick up an extra copy. This is fluorescent green in case anybody comes in. It's very easy to see. And it's another listing of the vote service and polling centers that will be open starting October 19th. The county is providing the vote centers in 3 different phases this year. So there's a calendar that goes along with the locations. So if you misplaced the information in the ballot that you received in the mail, or if you didn't receive a copy of the Adams County Tabor Notice or the state's Blue Book, we also have extra copies of those. Individuals can come inside City Hall and just pick those up as they wish, contact free. They don't have to talk to staff. They're just for the taking inside. So we welcome everybody to come in and get information if they need that. And that is all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we are moving into the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran-Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, moving into public hearings. We have the proposed 2021 operating budget. Jason Loveland is here with us. So I need Bob to please present the presentation for us. And I will now open the public hearing on the proposed 2021 budget and capital improvement program.
So this is Jason here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. And sorry, Bob, I was going to share my screen and I clicked my video and it said I could not be on the screen. So I'll let Bob go ahead and share his screen. So this is just a fairly quick recap of what we had talked about a couple of weeks ago. Just want to go through this in case there's any public that wants to comment. We'll do a quick overview of revenues and expenditures, staffing levels, and talk about capital projects as we move forward. On the next slide, just a reminder of our vision statement of a welcoming community and our small town character, urban energy and thriving businesses, and our 8 goal areas from our strategic plan on the next slide. Really the baseline for the budget is surrounded by, or, made up of these guiding principles and priority areas of high-performing government, community engagement, public safety, our business retention and growth, housing, a diverse community, sustainability, and infrastructure. So those themes are carried throughout the budget across all of the funds that we'll talk about below. So again, to reiterate, 2021 revenue forecasts, quite a bit different to come up with this year. The public health crisis has a significant impact. The restrictions for people to gather, again, largely influence, sales tax revenue with businesses' ability to have people come into them, especially the restaurant industry. And so as we learned tonight from public health, those are significant things that impact revenue forecasts. So on the next slide, made some modifications after our last conversation to sales tax projections. actually made some improvements where we had originally expected and forecast sales tax to be down 8% through 2020. We've made some adjustments there as we see positive trends over the last couple of months and expect sales tax to be down closer to 6%. Again, intergovernmental sources, we expect those to be lower as statewide restrictions are intact. And then utility rate increase that we've talked about to fund the infrastructure needs, specifically on the sewer side, but also on the water infrastructure in 2021. One key thing we talked about last time was no one-time revenue assumptions have been included for development at Carl's Farm. We believe there are revenues coming forward. We just have not made any assumptions in these forecast numbers for 2020 or for 2021. And those could be significant not only in the general fund, but water and wastewater for different fees associated with that development. On the next slide, on the expenditure side of things, again, we were asked departments to reduce non-personnel spending by 10 to 15%, align things with our strategic priorities, and then we are making adjustments to employee compensation, and then you'll see significant investment into the infrastructure, not only with facilities, water, sewer infrastructure, and our roadways. Next slide, please. So personnel makes up a significant portion of our budget. In the general fund, it makes up about 72% of the budget. And so this is just highlighting new positions. There's much more detail in the memo, but for the presentation, you'll see we need to operate the new facility at the Recreation Center. So there's an additional staffing included here with the body-worn cameras and dash cameras that has been included in the general fund budget. There's a need for a digital technician to help manage all of that data. That has been included, and a community resource navigator has been added, and then one reduction to our neighborhood services officers is included. And so you can see the trend from 2015 through 2021, where we are budget-wise. And this ends up at just about 298 FTE in the 2021 budget. Next slide. So the general fund budget, really, I guess the proposed budget that we'll be approving is the appropriation. So that's what will come forward on the 26th. For the general fund would be $26.9 million. That is down just over $2 million from 2021. So we've reduced spending next year by just about 7%. Highlighting some of the spending again, body-worn and dash cameras that we have discussed, but then also resident survey, diversity initiatives, and a lot of things that we're doing to reach out into the community through various avenues. Next slide, please. So this long-range forecast, again, has been updated since last meeting. You can see the net change, revenues over expenditures. The net change is negative in the 2021 and 2022 forecast. And as we talked about, there's going to be at least a year lag with new programming at the Recreation Center as we build up more programming in the additional space. So you'll see 2021 fund balance at the end of the year forecast to be about 77%. We've been talking about 80% for several months, but 2021 looks looks like we'll drop slightly, but if you go to the next slide, you can see the the impact and the trend over the last several years. And of highlight, I guess, to note is the 25% minimum requirement that we have set is that red dotted line at the bottom. So about $7 million is the required reserve level. And so at the end of 2020, we're expecting to be at just under 21 million. And then at the end of 2021, at 20.4 million. So well above that minimum threshold that we have set for emergencies. The next slide. Again, no changes to what we discussed a couple of weeks ago. Major projects here, Greenway Trail, some playground repairs, and a new bocce ball court. Next slide. The Capital Projects Fund, we'll see a little bit more of this in detail later on. Revenues, again, impacted by intergovernmental revenues with open space and transportation taxes. Open space is about $375,000 with transportation tax bringing forward about $1 million. Big projects, Recreation Center completion in 2021, East 120th Avenue expansion between Huron and not Huron, Washington and York. Next slide. And then on the proposed water fund budget, waste handling improvements, filter to waste automation are two major projects there. Again, the rate increase year 4 or 5 that was adopted in 2017. Next slide. And then on the wastewater, again, the rate increase, financing that will occur the end of 2020 for the financing of approximately $25 million upgrade to infrastructure for our lift station A and our force main. Next slide. Stormwater, no proposed rate changes to this area, and capital improvements of nearly $500,000 in different drainage improvements throughout the city. Next slide. Sanitation fund, again, no proposed rate increases to the service. And major capital investments for replacement vehicles, which is kind of an annual programming that we have. And then next slide. Again, this is a summary of about 65 million. We have a total of about $75 million worth of projects. These are kind of the most significant projects that we'll see throughout 2021. And most of those I've touched on already. Next slide. So after tonight's public hearing, the next meeting regarding the budget will be October 26th for the budget adoption of the 2021 budget. And with that, if there's any questions, happy to answer those, or I guess any public comment.
Any questions for Jason? Joanna, is there anyone signed up for public comment?
I do not have anyone signed up, and I did not receive any emails or voicemails prior to the meeting.
Okay. Well, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Done. Thank you, Jason. All right, ordinances on first reading, CB 1954. Joanna, will you read the title?
A bill for an ordinance amending Article 18 of Chapter 10 of the Northglenn Municipal Code regarding contractors' licenses.
Move for approval.
Randall said second. I think. Unmute. Try again.
I second. There
Okay.
we go.
Second, yeah.
Okay, Brooke is here, Director of Planning and Development, to provide a summary. Hi, Brooke. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. This will be short and brief. This is in conjunction with updating the 2018 IBCs so that we'll have both public hearings the same night. The real substantive change here is just identifying what homeowners can do without requiring a contractor's license, which primarily is to prevent a homeowner from doing remodel work that would otherwise be for commercial purposes, whether it be for sale, rental, or other types of uses. So what this really does is, historically, what residents do is to come in and do remodel work on their own behalf without a permit. Am I still here? Because it looked like I froze there for a second.
No. I think you're good.
Okay. Sorry about that. Everybody, just ultimately, I've been watching all this time and nothing freezes until I start talking. Okay. Anyways, that's the primary changes. There's a few other minor corrections in terms of integration and consistency with the IBCs.
Any questions for Brooke or discussion on this item? No? Okay. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson? Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CB 1954 on first reading passes unanimously.
All right, moving into resolution CR 134. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Northglenn and the City of Thornton regarding the design of 120th Avenue roadway improvements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Brooke is still here. You want to tell us about this one?
Sure. This is back when we received the grant application for the 120th project that was in Jason's presentation. Thornton had actually made a commitment in our joint application to provide a cost share for design between Claude and York Street, with the idea that if there was additional funds that would become available through the TIP process, we would try to leverage the existing project to build that final segment. So this IGA basically reflects their financial commitment to pay their pro rata share for the design section of the project. In the staff memo, I also noted that there is an additional $1.6 million that will be available for Adams County potentially for our project. We are the #1 priority project because we gave up quite a bit of money in our original scope to get secure funding. We will know, I was hoping to know those numbers for tonight's meeting, but it turns out it will be this Thursday. We will know what our preliminary estimates are. We're at 30% design drawings for the project. We are on schedule, so there is an opportunity that we will be able to actually construct this section of the road with the additional TIP funds coming forward. But for purposes of tonight, we're merely memorializing Thornton's commitment to the design costs for their segment.
Any questions or conversation? Okay, Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CR 134 passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, CR 139. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution supporting Adams County ballot issue 1A on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot to permanently extend the existing 1/4 of 1% Adams County open space sales tax.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to speak for or against this?
I'll speak for this. Sorry, thanks. And so one of the things that there's a couple of reasons why I really appreciate 1A. And mainly it's so 1A and 1B, they're not a new tax, they're just an extension of the tax that everybody already has. 1A is specifically the open space tax. And so it is 25 cents on a $100 purchase is essentially what we're paying. And some of the benefits are preserving land and water quality, safeguarding wild areas, wetlands, rivers, streams, open spaces, creating, improving, and maintaining parks and trails. So I think that's one of my favorite things about Adams County is the extensive trail system that we have. So that takes a lot of upkeep. And then enhancing cultural and historic facilities. So that's why I think that we should support 1A because it just brings so much benefit back to not only our residents, but as our residents move throughout the county, they're seeing the benefit of that money.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one? Okay, Joanna, will you open the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel?
No.
I will close that vote and CR 139 passes with 1 no vote cast by Councilmember Escabel.
All right, moving on to CR 140. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution supporting Adams County ballot issue 1B on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot to permanently extend the existing 1/2 of 1% Adams County sales tax to be used for road and bridge projects and county facilities.
Move for approval.
Second.
Sure.
Shut up.
Oh, sorry. I'm on a delay apparently in my brain. Is there any discussion on this item? Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to say that I do support this one as well. It's not like there's going to be any kind of an increase. And I know, we are facing some uncertain times ahead in terms of our economic situation. However, the city of Northglenn gets money from this directly that we can use on our streets and other city projects. And I think as much as each individual person might be feeling a pinch in their wallet, so do the cities and other governmental agencies. And what we do benefits a lot of people. And so I would just like to encourage people to really support this one. And that's my reasoning why. Thank you.
Okay, Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel?
No.
I will close that vote, and CR 140 passes with 1 no vote cast by Councilmember Escobar.
Okay. Moving into public invited to be heard. Joanne, do we have anyone still with us?
Let's see here. I don't see anybody other than staff connected to the call, and I did not receive any text messages or emails since the beginning of the meeting, so I would say no.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I'll make a motion to, go ahead.
Second.
Fantastic. Joanna, will you call the vote?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Okay, we are adjourned to executive session. Really quickly,